You're on the speaker path. All right, today we are ending the year by talking about forward-looking trends and insights from across the industry. I've got 3 different kind of 2025 year-end trends and reports from speakers, from meeting professionals, and we're going to toss these things out to you and see how we feel about them. So the first, and I think one of the most interesting things that I have discovered is the Freeman report that came out earlier this year. Links to all this stuff will be in the description or wherever you find it. The Freeman report came out earlier this year that 78% of conference organizers think attendees experience a peak moment during the conference. So event planners, almost 80% of them think that attendees experience a peak moment. Only 40% of attendees report experiencing a peak moment. So there's a huge split between what event organizers think is happening and what attendees are experiencing. I can dig into this a little bit more, but before I do, let me just toss that over to you. How do you feel about that?
I thought that the peak moment would be happy hour, but perhaps that's not what organizers had in mind. I'm surprised only 40% of people had a peak moment from an event. I was hoping that at least they found something to hang their excitement onto, but perhaps they actually understood the question, unlike me.
I wonder if the gap comes from some of the feedback that event organizers receive, the little survey that gets sent out at the end. What did you think of our event? Where everybody says, yeah, great, wonderful, loved it. Let's come again next year. And then when they actually go home and a couple of weeks pass, they think back at the event and they aren't so sure what happened when things settle. So that may be some of it.
All right, so let me add on to some of this to flesh it out. So what do you think event organizers think peak moments or peak experiences are? What do you think event planners think is happening?
I'm guessing they're thinking of at least one thing in an event that sort of, I'm not sure blew your mind is the right way to express it, but it's like you took one thing from the event. Like one thing happened in that event. I was like, wow, that thing I absolutely loved. Now, I don't know if they think of this as learning from the speakers or that applies to any experience within an event. I'm not sure how narrow they are in their definition of that.
Joe, what do you think event planners think peak events are?
I think they have some benchmarks that they look for, right? So obviously the standing ovation is something that any event planner would love to see. Knowing some event planners personally, I also think they look for speakers saying something that the event planner would like them to say on stage. And that makes them feel good. And then they think that everybody in the room had the same reaction. This happens for, usually not for massive events, but for conferences up to a couple of thousand people where the event organizer is also a curator, maybe. They have an industry take, right? They have a perspective on the content, not just the logistics of the event. I think it's that kind of thing is important to the event organizer. So then they relate to the content and they think, yes, great. They said that really smart thing. They said that interesting bit of, statistics or whatever. And they think, yeah, that was it. But that may not be it for the audience, right?
Yeah. Okay. So here you go. So the gap between organizers and attendees is stark. It's wild. All right. The top 3 categories that organizers think are peak moments. 25% of them think the keynote speeches are peak moments. So delivered by industry leaders, celebrities, inspirational, motivational speakers, these kind of people, right? 25% of them think keynote speakers are peak moments. 24%, so almost the same amount, think that the opening and closing celebrations, so Francisco, the signature, the cocktail hour, the opening gala, the closing gala, things like that, themed parties, dinners, concerts at the end, they think these are peak moments. And 23%, again, these are almost perfectly split, quarter. 23% think that unique or surprise elements, so unexpected experiences or activities, that are unique to the event location or theme. So the keynote speakers, opening and closing celebrations, and unique or surprising elements. These are the 3 things that event planners think are peak moments. And not a single one of those even topped the list for attendees. So here are what attendees say create peak moments for them. 41% say building vendor relationships. Building relationships with the vendors, with the exhibitors.
Does that mean hooking up with the vendors in the back of the room?
Absolutely. That's definitely a peak moment for most people.
Francisco.
That's called networking.
I never did that.
Relationship building.
Never did that right. I always, shook hands and handed out.
You just talked to people.
Card. I just talked to people. Should have been snarky.
Missed opportunity. So building vendor relationships through new product and innovation discovery, technology demonstrations, hands-on product experiences. So talking to the people who have stuff to offer and building those relationships. 20% of attendees say learning and development. So they do say that includes keynote speakers, but what they actually mean is gaining new perspectives. They're not actually saying the keynote speeches are the peak moments. They're saying gaining new perspectives are. And I think that is probably where we should be focusing this conversation.
Right.
I'll just say real quick.
Workshop.
Yeah, yes,
like
or
in
a workshop.
Small room.
Yes, it even says that.
To the conference.
I mean, it's crazy to think that the whole keynote speech is a peak moment. That's a very optimistic way of thinking.
Not to mention, but this is the conversation for speakers, right? Is that speakers get we talk about this all the time, they get so wrapped up in their own content and all the different things that they could say and all of the exciting things that they overwhelm audiences who then walk away not remembering a single thing that happened during the keynote. Whereas if attendees are saying, hey, a peak moment for us, where we give top marks on feedback forms is gaining a new perspective, it's like paradigm shift. One big idea from your speech that shifts the perspective for the attendees probably puts you at the top of the feedback forms.
Wait, hold on. Are you suggesting that giving an audience the full complexity and nuance of a subject is not the way to teach them things? You are suggesting we should dumb it down and give them one simplistic idea with something actionable to do. Is that what you're suggesting?
I am not suggesting that we should dumb it down, and I'm pretty sure I've never used that phrase in my career. So no, I am not suggesting we dumb it down.
But we both know that's what it means, right?
I think, though, laughing aside, that is why speakers, experts in particular, resist it, is because it feels like dumbing it down, and they don't want to, quote, dumb it down. They think, people are smart. I am smart. We should all. And it's like, yeah, people are smart and you are smart, but they're not smart in the same way that you're smart, and they're nowhere near the level of smart that you are about this topic.
Or about the same thing.
The same thing.
Exactly. And I love that you used the word perspective earlier, Brian, because it shows what the organizer's perspective really is. That, like, keynote speeches, surprise moments, and opening and closing events, galas, whatever. Those are the three things that they spend their energy on organizing the event, right? So, of course, they think that that's what's most important. And they would want those things to be the most important because then their efforts would be worth it.
Yeah, so actually that's really interesting, right? Because this is a conversation that we have with clients a lot about the difference between the immediate audience and the ultimate audience. And that both your messaging, your marketing, but also your speech itself has to work for both. It has to work for the immediate audience, which are the event planners, the executives, the buyers, the people signing the check, the people running the event. So you have to have something that makes them happy. Your keynote obviously has to be fantastic in terms of what they're looking for. It has to be packed full of stuff as far as they're concerned. And if you can incorporate a unique or surprise element, like I get magic, but like there's lots of other ways to do it. You don't have to be a magician. If you have a unique or surprise element, the organizers will be happy. But if you also keep it simple enough and deliver one primary takeaway that shifts their perspective, you will probably also get top marks from the attendees on the feedback forms, which works for everybody. Like that was my biggest takeaway of this is like, let's make both groups happy.
Yeah, so it's a bit like being a supermodel and a model mom and a career woman. And it's a bit the same for speakers, right? They have to do it all.
Have to do it all. Okay, there it is. I wasn't sure what point was going to be made at the end of that, and based on Francisco's face, neither was he. I got it. You got there in the end. Yes. You have to do it all.
Yeah, you need to make everyone happy, right? The critics on all levels as a speaker.
All Francisco heard was he must now be a supermodel mom in particular.
I mean, I've check. Next one, the model mom I might struggle with. Supermodel, I can pretend.
So all supermodels out there, if you want to start a keynote speaking career, you know where to find us.
You know, when I had my latest professional pictures taken, I sent them to a whole bunch of people in my family and said, so I've changed careers. I'm now a Zara model. And a lot of them were like, wow, that's great. I think you really pull it off.
And yet here you are.
That's fantastic. So I'll cap this section with a couple of actual quotes directly from the respondents of this survey. So here's a few quotes from organizers. They define a peak moment. Here are their actual words. It's usually the gala event or the closing ceremony where people get to reflect on the past few days. In my experience attending events, the last thing I'm doing by the closing ceremony is reflecting. I'm overwhelmed with information, and I'm just like having conversations, maybe having a drink and going back to my room. Event planners say it's usually the opening session that is always well attended, or we always close with an experienced speaker, usually something emotionally moving, and that's the peak moment. That is true. Event planners tend to put experienced speakers, like formerly a magician, formerly a comedian, formerly a hypnotist, or someone with a deeply moving personal story. They tend to put it at the end. I don't know if that's the right place for it, but that's where event planners put it. So here are a few things that attendees define as a peak moment. Instead of sitting at the same table for the whole event, the organizer assigned each attendee a number and rotated tables and provided discussion topics. That was defined by someone as a peak moment. The ability to meet new people and talk about stuff that matters.
An extrovert, no doubt.
That may be true. That may be true. I will say, because I get people to move around and do that and meet new people. It shows up on feedback forms all the time as one of the highlights of presentations. But that may be true. So here's another thing. Connecting with the owner or creator of a product and sharing the behind-the-scenes stories. So like human stories, the stuff behind all this. And you know that. We know that as speakers. One of the things that people most enjoy about us is not the time we're on stage. It's the time they get to chat with us at the cocktail hour, at lunch, in between, at the coffee breaks, and ask you about your career or how you got into this and things like that. Okay, so that is the difference with peak experiences. Let's talk about the Skift Meetings Megatrends 2026 report. Again, link in the description. Over 50% of online content is now estimated as being AI generated, and where just a few years ago, in 2023, attendees had a favorable view of speakers using AI as in their presentations or to build their presentations. In 2025, across the board, attendees view it as entirely unprofessional. Those are the words, entirely unprofessional to deliver an AI-generated speech or any AI-generated content. Do we have anything to say about that?
Yes.
Yep.
We agree.
So I don't have a perfectly good explanation for that, but I shared with the two of you the other day something from Cory Doctorow, who is well known in sort of technology circles because he's the guy who came up with the term enshittification, which I think I can say because now it was a word of the year, I think, a year or two ago.
It's in common language now. Yep.
And my phone suggests it when I start typing ENS, enshittification comes up as a suggestion, which is the idea that everything gets worse, particularly technology and companies and the way they treat us and all of that. And he was talking about AI, and one of the things he was saying was just when you look at AI art, for example, there is a feeling of good craftsmanship, like it's technically well done, but it seems to be lacking something. And I don't know how true that is for every single bit of AI art, but I've never looked at a bit of AI art and thought, wow, this really blew my mind. I was like, well, it's cool you can do that fast. That's usually what I think. It's like, oh, you press some buttons and you got that. That seems impressive. But, that's about as far as it goes.
So would you write a birthday card with ChatGPT? Would
I
you,
wouldn't.
Would you write your wedding speech with ChatGPT? Would you write, a letter to a friend with ChatGPT? If you wouldn't do any of these things,
I wouldn't write a letter to a friend. Or a Christmas card.
No use going faster at something
there
you don't want to
have
do.
Yes.
But I mean, if the reason you wouldn't do it, the same reason you wouldn't do it for a friend or, an important moment in your life, the same reason applies to why you shouldn't do it for a keynote speech. It's not authentic. It's not your lived experience. It's not alive. The whole point about us getting together in a room and hearing someone speak is to have a lived experience. Otherwise, they could just email us the speech, right?
Yeah, I have so much to say about this. Here's right from the report. AI free is emerging as a new authenticity credential, drawing parallels to labels like organic in food production or handcrafted in luxury goods. There's a movement for films to put an AI-free stamp on projects. This reminds me of, there are bands over the years that have started putting no auto-tune was used on this album. Now, there's a lot of people who don't care about that at all, right? They don't care. They will swear up and down that Taylor Swift is singing for real. And you're like, yeah, she is, through auto-tune, right? Let's be really clear what we're talking about. And that's fine. You can like that. And I think some people don't care. But in the speaking industry, in the meeting and event space, I think what we're seeing is live events are being seen as the last bastion of true, authentic human connection. You can't fake a live experience. There's simply, at this moment, no way to fake having a live experience. And so there's no AI involved, AI-free stamp on live events. I think meeting even the people in the audience, the attendees, who would accept AI helping them write a tricky email to a colleague, will not accept a speaker who's clearly delivering lines that were written by ChatGPT.
Well, first of all, you say that there is no way to fake a live experience. That's because you've never seen me play with my children. I'm just going to put that out there.
Your kids are going to need so much therapy, man. Oh, my God. May they never find us on the internet.
They have
Brian,
a lot.
you and I.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So that's the first point. The second point is, I think, going back to the music analogy, I think, and I don't know exactly how this looks with AI, but you're talking about autotune, and one of my favorite artists is Bon Iver, right? And Bon Iver uses a ton of autotune in his songs, but very clearly he's altering his voice to make it sound in a way that you just couldn't make it sound just being human.
He uses it as an instrument.
As an effect.
And
Yes.
I've just been sort of obsessed with a band called Foxing over the last few weeks. And one of the things they do, they have this weird tool. I don't even know what it's called. They play. And sometimes they would do is to put things in a loop, right? They'll sing a bit and then they'll put something on a loop that keeps repeating throughout the song. Now, I've seen them do it just there and then. If they had just come out and had the thing playing from a recording, I would have thought, wow, that's a bit naff. But I've just heard them record it live, and now I can see why they're doing it, to add an element that they just couldn't do live normally. I don't know how that looks with AI and speeches, for example, but that's, I think, is the difference, is you're trying to add something, you're not trying to fake doing something better or well or whatever.
So where my mind went was the thing that you and I were chatting about, I think, yesterday around panels, firesides, interviews, because these are the last formats that people can't fake, can't pre-write. You can still fake a speech. You shouldn't, but you can. You can still have AI build your slides, which sometimes is a good thing because they come out prettier than when people do it themselves. But even then, it depends very much on how well you're prompting.
Prettier, but with no personality.
That is true.
And with an implication of laziness now.
I agree.
Because it's so easy.
I agree.
It's so easy to do. That's the problem. It's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Precisely. And that's what people are becoming allergic to, the ease with which it just spits something out and there's no life there, right? But in an interview, in a fireside, on a panel, in a facilitated workshop, all of these things become human to human again. So my bid is on these formats. And if anyone's thinking about making 2026 their big speaking year, these are the formats to double down on, I would say.
Yeah, that, and in terms of the behind, like when you're like the off stage or when you're not at events, and it's podcasting. And podcasting has become this tremendously authentic medium, especially long form interview style podcasting. It completely transformed the previous election in America, and you can almost always track the media trends, like messaging and media trends. You can almost always track by paying attention to election cycles in major countries. And it was like in the US, it was like back Barack Obama the first time, he was all over Twitter. It was incredibly obvious, right, in 2008 that Twitter was that social media was about to explode, that short form social was about to explode because it completely transformed that election cycle. And we just saw podcasting transform this one, right?
Facebook in the Arab Spring. Before that. So massive influence for sure.
Right. And I'm going to just close the loop on the looping conversation that Francisco started about watching musicians do looping, which is exactly what you said, which is if I had simply heard that as a backing track, it would have been like, well, that sounded fine. Like, that was fine. Like, they sing fine. Like, whatever. But watching them create it in real time, it's something that people love about Ed Sheeran. It's very exciting to see somebody do that. I used live guitar looping in my magic show for many, many years. It was really, really unique. And I'm a good guitarist. I'm, I don't know, maybe a great guitarist. I'm not a world-class guitarist. I'm not in the top 2%. Maybe I'm in the top 8%, like whatever, right? Good enough to get into Berklee College of Music, not enough to be famous, right? So when I did it, though, what I did was I literally used live guitar with a loop pedal in the middle of a magic show to create a backing track instead of doing what magicians normally do, which is putting on a song and then doing magic. And because the audience watched me create a backing track over 5 or 6 layers and then set the guitar down while the music kept playing and do a piece of magic, neither the magic I did nor the guitar I had just played, none of that was in the top 2% of those art forms. But the authenticity and the realness of it was just this incredible experience where people would come up after and just go, God, that was just unbelievable. It really, the authenticity of it elevated the actual craft of it.
I'm sure everything you just said is right, but my brain is still stuck on you having said that Sheeran and exciting in the same sentence.
Have you seen Ed Sheeran live? Have you seen him live?
To be fair, I just
Go
tried
watch
listening
him
to
live,
him and then I choked on syrup. And it took me a while to cleanse the palate. After.
Watch him live, and it's exactly what we're talking about. Watching him create every layer and then perform the song, it's just amazing. But so for speakers, though, okay, so that's guitar, fine. For speakers, what's the AI version of that? Well, I'm working with someone right now who prefers not to be named publicly without their consent, so I won't. But I'm working with somebody right now who is also a musician in addition to what they do for their field, and it has nothing to do with their field. So kind of how I used music with magic. And what they're working on is they're capable of playing songs that they've written, and they do this, but they're working on having the audience help them create a new song in real time about their topic live on stage. And the way that we're going to do that, or at least we're experimenting with, is having topics fed from the audience and then live through a computer, feeding it through ChatGPT that's been trained on the bars, the tempo of the song that we need, so that ChatGPT can live in front of the audience produce a verse that the audience can then sing along with them while they play. To me, that is the version of authenticity with AI. That's using AI for what it does best while retaining authenticity, and we're playing with that.
That's the AI version of a guy who just made it to the finals of America's Got Talent. It's a British guy who raps about, like a white guy. He could not look whiter if he tried. And he raps about anything that the audience asked for. Like he would ask the judges for topics, he would ask the audience for topics, they would lift bits of paper, and he would just rap about that immediately. But obviously, if you're using AI, I think if you're using it in a way that you're teaching the audience, here's how you use it for anything you need and not just for entertainment, then that is interesting. But yeah, I think there's an element of like, basically, if it's done live, even if using technology, that's probably okay. I mean, that might be a generalization, but it's probably okay. But if it's canned, then even if you took immense amounts of craft to do it before, people just don't tend to appreciate it. And now we know that it's mostly lazy, and you just couldn't be bothered to make it sound like a human being, which is lazy.
I think there's nothing cool than seeing something made in real time. And in terms of giving people an experience, which is what audiences seem to think is a peak moment, right? Having a real contact experience, making something and contributing to what is being made on stage in that time. That's like, top class.
100%, Joe. I'll cap us off and then move us to one final topic here that I haven't quoted Seth Godin in a while. I'm due. So let me quote Seth. He says, art is when a human being does something that might not work. And I think that is probably the thing that we need to be remembering as speakers moving into 2026. Okay, so let's do one more. And I think that... I'm going to rapid fire through a couple of things that we can respond to quickly if we want to, and then I'll do one like major topic.
Okay.
One, event planners are younger, newer, and overwhelmed. So 24% of planners within organizations are new to their team this year. I have a quick thought about that, which is it's always been important to be easy to work with. It has never been more important to be easy to work with. Like, people that are running events, you think that these are professionals who've done this a billion times. A lot of them don't know what they're doing. They've been handed a massive event and are trying to manage the logistics, and they are changing their minds and changing the schedules, and you just need to be okay with that.
I think event planning is the new social media management, honestly, where, the company's social media accounts used to be farmed out to an intern or a trainee. And now it's event planning that's farmed out to the latest hire. And they're very often young graduates or young people in the early stages of their career. And as a speaker, you need to support them. You need to lay things out for them and be as transparent as you can, be as end-to-end as you can in terms of your process, and flexible, definitely.
Well, when I heard that they are all young, I thought they don't know anything, and we can take advantage of it. No, what I actually thought...
Not untrue.
What I actually thought was, it's strange that if they're all young, that supposes that people are thinking that this is a lower value or lower difficulty task, and they're assigned, the companies are putting people on that don't have 10 years, 20 years experience doing this, because either they think it's very easy to do, or they don't think it's that valuable, which is strange to think.
How hard can it be? Make a few phone calls, book a room.
Which is strange to think, because you would think they know what a bad event looks like, and they know how expensive events are. So there might be a bit of a dissonance there between how much they value the event based on their budget and how much how much responsibility they're putting on people that to the very least don't have the experience for it. And then, from our end, you're talking about being easy to work with. Thinking about TEDx organizers, for example, it opens a door for us not to take advantage of them, but to come in and say, listen, in other events, this is what I found to have worked really well. And sometimes they'll be going, oh, thank God somebody's telling me what to do, because nobody's telling me what to do. That
is so important. Yes, I think a lot of speakers, I know a lot of our own clients I've worked with, are very nervous or apprehensive about being forthright with event planners, about being very straightforward with event planners. But I'm like, for the most part, you are doing them a tremendous service if you actually tell them what will work based on you, because you are a professional speaker, and this might be their first or second event that they're ever planning or whatever. They're not running events all the time. Maybe they only run one a year, so they're not in the world of speaking. If you can say, listen, based on how attendees have been reacting at the events I've been speaking at recently and the things I've seen working, I recommend we do this. I just did it recently with someone that was like, how long should we do the keynote? Like an hour 15, an hour and a half. We're planning for a event for next year. And I said, I got to tell you, recently I'm seeing a push for 30 to 45 minute keynotes. I think 45 is the maximum. That's a great, like for me, for my presentation, that'll feel very smooth. It'll fly for people. But I think you want to do 45, and I'll still be around all day. You want me to do another thing later in the day, a breakout, a panel, or whatever, we'll do that. But I told them, I think you're going to get more value out of having me up there for less time based on how event. And they were like, that's so useful to know. We can organize the schedule around that. Because they were still thinking like a year ago, the last time we did an event, an hour 15 was what we asked for. It's like times are changing, like, and tell people.
Yeah, and formats are changing on the topic of having more experiences. We're also seeing fewer keynotes and more panels, more diverse, a mix of formats within the same event. So then if you can do both of those things, I think an event organizer would be very happy, because then they don't have to work with 20 speakers. Maybe they can just work with 10, but mix and match the 10 people in different formats.
At the tactical level, there's the argument for have a day rate. Just this is just the day rate, and whatever you want me to do, I'll be there and I'll do it. And that way, they don't have to go, well, then what does it cost to add on this? What does it cost to add on that? We were just going, I'm there for the day. It costs this plus travel, and we're done.
Exactly.
And then they can just go, oh, I don't have to pay another $10,000 for a speaker for that one panel, or $5,000 or whatever. I can just get the keynote to also be a part of that panel and save some money, which leads into budget pressure is reshaping who gets hired. 38% of planners name rising costs as their top challenge for 2026. Not rising cost of speakers, rising cost of everything. Production, decor, services, event, the event spaces, just the food, calling everything. And I think most important thing for speakers, the kind of speakers we work with, to know is that I expect, we'll find out, a year from now we'll find out, I expect big name celebrity speakers to be getting booked less than they used to be. I think people are going to stop being willing to spend $50, $70, $100,000 on someone that just has a big name, the Gary V's of the world. And they're going to say, that's not a good use of our money anymore. Like, what if we could get 3 professional speakers for the same price who are industry experts and know what they're doing? I think this is good news for the kind of people that we work with, which is you don't have to worry about being famous. You have to provide value and be known for providing value, right? And that you can compete.
So having actual industry knowledge that you can share in a palatable way, in an engaging way, rather than rah, we can do this.
Yes. And here's the last big topic, which I'm going to toss first to Joe. And I have less to say about this one. So I'm going to kind of leave this to you guys to see where this goes.
Actually, just before you do that, I think this is important to say again, because I think this might be the most valuable thing to speakers that we covered all of today, other than my humor, of course. And it's this. It might be the best way to get booked at still a fairly high rate from now on, to present your cost not as this is the cost for my keynote speech, but this is the cost for me to be there for the day. Because that was just going over in my head after you said it. And I think when you present it to an organizer and say, this is my cost, but that's not the cost for the speech, that's the cost for me to be there for the day. If you need me to do anything else, like run a breakout session or something else, I'm more than happy to do it because I'm there anyway. So I can fill another slot in your agenda, depending on what it is, more than one. I think that makes someone charging, 5 figures for larger 5 figures for an event substantially easier to stomach, because this is not like an hour that you filled in the event. It could be 2, it could be more.
and it provides kind of a deeper dive into the topic. It's not just surfing on the very basic general ideas around the topic, but actually, okay, we have an intro with the keynote, and then everybody who wants to learn a little bit more can join the workshop or the panel or the breakout session, whatever it is. Yeah, my husband and I call this the prostitution rate. The day
I'll
rate.
do whatever you want. Yeah.
I'll do whatever. I'm here for the day.
I have things I could add on this subject.
That's okay.
I think I'm going to leave this for another podcast.
Last point on that, because we've been using a day rate for me for many, many years. We shifted about 7-8 years ago from the here's a keynote, here's a breakout, here's this, here's that, to just this is the cost for the day. The other advantage you get is should you end up actually bumping up against an organizer's budget, which is rarely really true, but should they think that's the case, and they need to negotiate down, you can negotiate from the day rate down to, okay, I can come down and meet you at your budget, but then it's just the keynote. I walk on stage, I deliver, I walk off, I shake 3 hands, and I walk out the door. And I have had people take me up on that in the last 6 months who are like, you know what, we simply can't get the money but we really do still want you to be here. I stay anyway. You know what I mean? At least like half the day. Like I hang out. I hang out through lunch. Like I won't hang out the whole day. That's not right. But it's
good for business.
It's good for business, but it's also, this is a way, if you just have a day rate, to be able to then negotiate down. There's wiggle room for you to not simply say, sure, I can do it for less, which you never want to do. You can say, well, I can do it for less and do a lot less, which is a way to do it. All right, last topic here. Micro events are exploding, and they're radically changing speakers' roles. So micro events, which they're defining as, this is from the Skift Meetings, Megatrends, 10 to 100 attendees, and held at smaller venues throughout a city. I think, Joe, I'm going to go to you first because I think you're more familiar with this trend than I am. I have not really experienced this in the events I work, but I feel like you've started to see and hear about this.
Definitely across the Nordics.
Yeah, I was going to say, aren't this called European events?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's some big ones, of course, but a 70 or 80 person event is hardly
is a
micro.
Big deal here. Yeah. Yes, I do see this a lot, and I think it maps onto kind of a version of the future that's high tech and high touch, where people have had enough of not even had enough of big events, but we pay good money these days to have our phones taken away from us, right? To go on mindfulness retreats or any such leadership development events where, again, we're kind of put in a bubble, and for 3 days or a week, we just focus on whatever's happening there in real time. So yes, I do think that real life high touch experiences are going to rise, and speakers who can cater to these different formats and can be the conduit for the audience to experience as much as possible. Those are going to be the speakers who are going to be in high demand.
Yeah, a few things from the mega trends here, which is this is continuing on that theme of there's a desire for meaningful connection, for real human authentic interaction, and real voices over the flashy production value that event planners think people want. We're seeing a growing interest in micro communities within larger events, as well as curated content and networking opportunities. Event planners are reporting that micro events are even harder to plan than mega events because there's no follow the crowd journey. You actually have to be very intentional about what you're doing because there's just not enough people and not enough things to do. At a mega event, there's just so much going on. You could just kind of wander around and bump into things. But if there's only 40 people at a brewery or something like that for a few hours, they have to know what they're supposed to be doing at all times.
Well, and if there's
Yeah.
only 40 people there and someone says, well, this sucks, everybody hears it. If it's a mega event,
No kidding.
it's lost
Yeah.
in the hubbub.
Yes. And everybody knows everybody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like with, 50, 100 people in a room, you can very easily end up talking to most of them over the course of an evening, and how that conversation is curated. And I love what you said earlier about providing conversation topics at the tables, right? So you need to kind of steer the experience for the people that are attending, and that's one way to do it. Then hiring a speaker who's good at that is another way to do it, right? Having these multiple touch points and multiple media to cater to extroverts, introverts, everyone else in between, in the same way. Yeah.
So what are our big overview top level takeaways here from kind of what we just looked at today?
Well, the first one is I'm concerned about how much they like the word mega. Because every time they say that, I think of either mega drive or megazord.
The mega trend of micro events.
I find it
The
difficult.
Megazord.
I
Power
find it
Rangers
difficult to
throwback.
think of anything super serious with mega in front of it. This is a mega trend.
Mega Man.
Mega Man, yes. It's just, like it's not serious. I can never do it to the straight face. Not that there are many
All I
things
can think
do
of
with a straight face.
is Milo like at the bus stop just going like, "Daddy, watch me! I'm gonna do a mega jump!" And like that kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Exactly.
So what are our big takeaways?
So yeah, I think one of the things that seem to be a bit of a through line is, well, when organizers don't necessarily know exactly what people want, there's a dissonance there between what they think makes for a good event and what people want, and small is better.
We'll let that hang in awkward silence for a minute.
It won't hang because, No, I wasn't. I actually didn't mean it as a joke. I actually meant that, the smaller events, fewer activities or things happening, fewer things in the agenda. It's less about let's throw a million things at the wall and give people a chance to be bowled over by all that we offer them, and more, well, you actually got to pick a little better.
Yeah. What's your takeaway, Joe?
For a bit longer. Maybe you're not spending a whole day browsing 2 hours on one or two. And then this thing we were saying earlier about having a conversation topic through the different formats that speakers could approach it in. And then finally, of AI crutches, use them intelligently to do your talk for you, and be ready to engage with people for interviews, firesides, workshops, whatever requires real-time interaction.
Yeah, the AI thing. If you go try it, have AI write write a 5-minute. Ask AI to write a 5-minute speech for you on whatever your topic is, and then just print it out, stand up, and read it out loud as if you were delivering that talk to a room full of people. I guarantee you are uncomfortable doing it, because those are not your words, even if they're the kind of words that you use, and they're not the words the way that you would use them. And they have rhetorical flourishes in them that you probably aren't trained. Like, you can use that's why the whole thing about when people are so frustrated with like the contrasting statements and rule of three, those are great rhetorical. They've been around for thousands and thousands of years. These rhetorical flourishes, you can tell when someone's using them who actually uses them or knows how to use them. You can tell when someone uses a contrasting statement that knows what it is, has written it with intention, and it's built into the way that they speak. You can also tell just how it comes out of someone's mouth. You can just feel that is not a thing that you would say. I can just tell. So, don't do that. Don't do that. My biggest takeaway, I'm going to bring us all the way back to the very beginning, is if you're a speaker, you deeply need to understand that what people want when you're on stage, the people in the seats, and what the event planners, the organizers, and more importantly, the economic buyers, the people who sign the check and hire you, that those people want different things, and you must reach both of them. You must over-delight both of them, or you will be in trouble, right? If you only over-delight the audience, you will not get rebooked or referred. If you only over-delight the people who booked you, the audience won't enjoy your speech or give you high marks. So you must do both. There are 2 levels to your messaging, both offstage and onstage, and we have literal industry insights so you can understand how to reach those people. So if you're not thinking about the people that your marketing is for, if you're not thinking about the people that your speech is for, and you're just saying what you feel like saying, you are missing a huge opportunity and probably cannot compete anymore with the people who are doing it. So, all right. It's been a crazy year. This has been fun. Happy New Year, Francisco, Joe.
Happy New Year.
And
cheers to 25.
Happy New Year.
Yes, cheers to 25, and we will see you on the speaker path in 2026.